Okay, so I guess first of all, how was last night and the experience of showing the film in Cannes?
No, it was a great night, yeah. It was amazing, because always screening the film in this huge cinema, in front of 2,500 people, and it was really moving and intense, and so yeah, it was great, to do the world premiere in Cannes. It's always amazing.
And then do you ever get used to seeing your face huge up on screen in front of when you're watching it alongside a whole audience?
Yeah, I don't know, I can sort of disengage now, I think. If the film's been put together well, then I can kind of I can switch off. So yeah, I'm over it. I'm over it.
Over it?
Yeah.
So for you, how was it to play a real person? How much did you get involved with Billy beforehand to build in the role?
Yeah, it was an incredible gift, I think, the opportunity to play a guy who has had an incredible life and has an incredible psyche and brain, and he's a conflicted man, and an addict, and the opportunity to explore and get to know Billy and spend time with him and his family in Liverpool and really learn about who he is and his vulnerabilities and what he went through. Just was a fantastic opportunity, I think, to explore and to immerse myself in the role in prison was great.
And then you chose to sort of throw us straight in. There was no backstory. We didn't really get to know anything before the opening sequence. What was the reason for that? Why did you not want us to know about his kind of past, or what was your reason?
I wanted that maybe to immerse immediately, the audience, in this kind of chaotic world Billy was at this time in Bangkok. Was kind of lost in his own world. He was in prison with himself, maybe, and I thought it was interesting, instead of being narrative, trying to experience the film more than just, following a narrative story, meaning following Billy from the beginning, almost in his head through these eyes, and hearing him breathing and sweating and suffering and winning. I think it was important for me to do this film more as an experience, immersive experience, and physical experience, I will say, as just telling the story, in a more traditional way.
Was that quite freeing for you to not have, you didn't have that much dialogue, so does that then mean you get, is it easier, harder?
Well, there was a lot of improvisation, which I thrived upon. As I say, I spent a lot of time getting to know Billy, I spent a lot of time training and prepping. So once we got to shooting, Jean created an environment that allowed freedom to almost within the room do what we wanted. And we had a rough plan of where we needed to get in each scene, but Jean would roll the camera, very long takes, 10-15 minutes, no cuts. And it allows you to kind of get into a completely different mindset, almost like a mindfulness where you just forget that you're acting because it's going on for so long. And there's very little lighting rigs. There's nothing. It's me and the other actors and the camera. So yeah, I mean it was a fascinating experience. I hope to do something similar again, but unfortunately other films aren't quite the same as a Jean-Stephane movie. I'll tell you that for nothing.
And how about the training? You've mentioned a bit there, but how did you find that, and did anything surprise you about doing the training?
The training, is an important component because everything that feeds into the performance. I went into the prison feeling strong, feeling like I'm ready to fight anyone. It brings out the aggression. It really, when you're training that to that intense level and you're getting punched and you're fighting every single day, it brings out that real sort of animal aggression. So I felt like every single day I was ready to kind of switch. I wasn't in a lethargic state at any point. I was constantly kind of ready to turn, and that's a big part of who Billy was in those times. He was he told me he was his own worst enemy, and he said as bad as the time in prison was, he said the most difficult thing was battling with his own head. So yeah, the training was a big influence on that.
It's interesting that with a lot of boxers and Thai boxers and martial artists, that quite a few of them have come from different backgrounds, and a lot of people turn their life around through that kind of sport. What do you think it is about that? Why do you think that is the case?
Well, I mean, I think that any kind of sport or martial art, there is just it's quite meditative. You know, you're fit. You have routine. You have a place to go. You're eating food, the same food with the same people. It's almost like being in an army, sort of experience. I think those Thai camps, it's like going and being in the army. It's very regimented. You're up at 7 in the morning. You're up at 5 in the morning. You're running around Bangkok, then you're coming back. You're eating the same food with the same guys, and you're part of a family. And I think what I learned was most of those guys out there who were those champion Thai fighters and Muay Thai fighters and the prison fighters, they've got nothing else. They don't have the education system. They don't have. That is their means. That's all they can do. So they have to do it.
And they were interesting to see that like the life in prison is almost the same as the life in a boxing camp, because as you say, they have to wake up early in the morning, live together, eat together, train together. There was something like similar between the prisoners and the boxer, which was really interesting as well.
And you chose to use some ex-cons as well within the film. Why did you decide to do that, and how did that kind of work?
I think only like this kind of non-professional actors, so ex-prisoners, boxers, ex-prisoners and boxers. It was really important for me to do this film with these people, because they are the only one we know exactly how the life was in prison, and they can tell us exactly the story as it was. So as I was interested also telling the story in a really realistic way, authentic. And for me it's fascinating always to work with people who experienced this before, and to immerse even more the audience into this kind of real world who looks like authentic and like a documentary. And I like mixing professional and non-professional actors. Also for the non-professional actors to use the film and the movie as a therapy, an opportunity to tell the suffering they went through, the experience of life, and showing also the humanity of these people, and not just the bad side of the prisoners, and showing that there is humanity in everybody, and they have a great humanity. And there is a scene when they explain also almost like a documentary, this kind of other part of themselves. So for me it's more powerful when it's non-professional actors mixing with real actors to give this kind of authenticity to the film.
Thank you very much for Tiffany lurking. She's hiding. She's hovering. Thank you. I love the film today. It was great.
I was actually filming Peaky Blinders in Liverpool, so I got to spend most of my evenings with Billy, and it was great. The more time I spent with him, just hanging out, really, the more I picked up on things, the more we talked. And
anything you could imagine when you write a script, sometimes you have some ideas and stuff, kind of cliche, and you realize that the reality is much more interesting.
I felt like I was reading about someone else. I was like, oh my god, this guy, it was like I wrote a story and I felt sorry for the guy in it. Oh my god, this guy's shit. And showed it to an education member of staff. And she came back and she went, oh my god, you need to write more. You have just described. Telling people in the prison, because they'd ask me, why was you inside? And I'd tell them, they were looking at me like I was crazy, and they were in shock, and I was like, this is kind of strange. And what I learned was I couldn't identify, they couldn't share anything. I survived because the willingness to live within. Showed me the right path. Put them away and doing things that against their will. They've got to be willing. You know what I mean? That's what it's about. The willingness within.
Okay, we're good to go. Thank you.
So first of all, how did you find watching the screening last night? What was that experience like?
I was trying to describe the feelings, but I couldn't kind of put a feeling on it. It was like, wow. Because I've wrote about it and I've kind of been involved in it so much, it was, to me, I knew what to expect. And I also thought I knew what the audience were going to expect, but obviously they don't. So it was quite overwhelming to receive, you know, a standing ovation and the applause that we received last night. It was like, wow, it was really, you know, it was quite nice, yeah.
And I'm guessing that you've probably been approached before to do a film. I'm sure it's the first time. What kind of made you want to do it now? What made you think it was a good time to do this film?
I didn't really know whether I wanted to make a film. I just thought maybe a documentary was, or maybe just a, you know, a bit of a human interest story. I didn't realise that someone wanted to make a feature film about it. I just knocked at a door on a street called Hope Street. I just thought, I hope these answer. And they refused me 3 times, and I just kept coming back, and they took the book off me that I'd wrote and said, okay, we'll read it and we'll be in touch if you like it. And Andy got in touch and said, oh my God, this is amazing, we want to make a feature film. You really? Really? Okay. Who's going to star in it? But yeah, that's just how it came about really, and you know, that was the buzz.
And then talking about who's going to star, what did you think of Joe when you first saw him, and did you instantly think, oh yeah, he's the right guy for the job?
Yeah, definitely. You know, names have been bantered about. Charlie Hunnam was attached to the movie initially, and to be honest, I'm glad he never took the part. I'll say that to the camera, I really am, because I think Joe and the resemblance between me and Joe were quite uncanny, and the commitment he put into this was just incredible. I mean, he was absolutely solid on this movie. He was full on. You know, he put his whole heart and soul into this. It was just unbelievable. I watched him. You know, I met him many times, and he was just incredible. So, yeah, I'm quite delighted with the actor.
And then, kind of, what do you think now when you look at that period of your life and you look at it in the film? Do you feel very detached from it? Do you feel very in it? How do you kind of feel?
Very detached. I feel like I'm watching somebody else's life go by and thinking, you know, what a sad story. You know what I mean? But you know, when I wrote the book and I read the story, I felt sorry for the guy in it. And when I watched the movie, I felt sorry for the guy in it. It was like, it's quite difficult to believe that that was actually me that I experienced all that. You know, and that was only like 7-8 years ago. So it was like, wow. You know what I mean?
And what do you think, if you hadn't sort of found boxing and found Muay Thai, what do you think would have happened? How do you think this story would have ended? Do you think it would have been a very different scenario? I
think it would have ended up either dead or lost, or I'd have committed suicide or something, you know what I mean? Because it was just misery. I think boxing was like, was my saving grace. It was kind of like, I became a part of something, I was accepted. I was collectively, as a group, I was involved. I was welcomed, I was involved in the activities, I was, you know, we ate together, so I felt part of something. So I think being part of something was the motivating factor, really, you know what I mean? Not isolated and separated and feeling different and the language barrier, you know, and just feeling a lack of of anything really, just like, it was just nothing, you know what I mean? Whereas the guy once pinched me and I went, ow! And we couldn't speak the same language, and he said, hurt? I said, yes. He said, I hurt too. He said, doesn't matter whether what your skin colour is, what your language is. He said, we're both human beings, we both feel, we both hurt. And that kind of like hit home. It was like, he's trying to tell me something here, you know, and he was telling me that we're going to accept you, regardless of where you come from, what colour, you know, what creed, what religion, what race, you're a part of this team. And that was nice. It was a warm feeling that kind of like encapsulated my whole kind of being, really, yeah.
Because I think, I've been to Thailand a lot and I've done a lot of Muay Thai out there. I think that one thing with all, I think when you're a fighter, it kind of changes your attitude to humanity, basically, and to other people. Did you feel that? Do you feel like that there's, you get a new respect for your fellow humans almost?
Yeah, I felt quite, I felt, because I'd never been brought up in Thailand, and I felt like every other foreigner who wanted to go out there and just do all the Muay Thai stuff, but I immersed myself really, really deep within the Thai culture. You know, before I got arrested, I was fighting 2 times, 3 times a night sometimes, and you know, I learned this art and how to become a bit more fluid and a bit more kind of relaxed and not aggressive, and see it as a sport and as an art form, instead of seeing it as just a way of kind of just like being violent and brutal. It was more like, look, we're going to teach you something here, which is more like, it was nice, yeah, it was quite it's quite different, and so as humanity, it kind of it brought me solace, it brought me kind of it brought me back home, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and I think there's also like an interesting dynamic. Thailand's an interesting place in that it's very, everyone's very happy, and it's very, on the outside, you know, it looks, it's loads of tourists there, it's a good place to be, but then there's also this quite brutal undercurrent there as well. There's a lot of stuff going on. That's
initially you see the surface, it's all the smiles, you know, and the sweaty car, and you know, everything's crying on the surface. It looks quite pretty and quite attractive, but once you get involved and you're involved and you're deep within, you know, there's a dark side to Thailand. There's a really, really dark side. So and I saw that pretty quick. You know, I saw guns getting pulled on me, and I was attacked, and I was robbed, and I was kind of involved with drugs, and it was, you know, and then corruption, and all that stuff was a massive part of their culture underneath the smiles.
And then, you know, are you able to now sort of, it's obviously shaped you into who you are now, so from that perspective, do you feel like, you know, your life would have obviously been very different if this whole experience hadn't happened, but, you know, can you almost accept it now as, well, this is why I'm now, I can be like I am now, you know, is it shaped how you are today?
Yeah, it allowed me to develop as a person emotionally. It allowed me to grow. It allowed me to see past the addiction, to see past just another person drifting through society with the wind blowing through his soul. It was like, you know, there's a human being here, and there's somebody kind of, it was quite, it was a feeling that I can't really describe. It was just something within, going within, yeah, it was going within. Because if I never went within, I went without. So I knew that wherever I went, I took the problem with me. So we had to really, really like sit down and discover, you know, and that's what Thailand's all about. Yen, calm down, take it easy, relax. But I was like a electric mouse. I was going everywhere, and I couldn't be still. Just be at peace, and that's what I found. Just a bit of solace and a bit of calmness within myself. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Nice to talk to you.
Well, thank you. How did that go?
Enjoy the rest of
okay.
your